Welcome everybody back to Seaweed Brain, a Percy Jackson podcast. We are coming to you from an hour into the future of you recording this. We have just finished recording with Naomi and we had such a good time. This episode is so exciting. We cover all the looks from glam to monsters in the Sea of Monsters season. And when we hopped on this call with Naomi, we all just kind of started yapping. So we had to record this intro because we just got right into it. So we hope you guys enjoy. Definitely. Wow. There are so many looks this season, from glam looks to the Sea of Monsters looks. And we get to talk to you about both of those things today. And I feel like just generally broadly, what is it like to be in a meeting between you, hair, costumes, VFX, stunts, cinematography, the showrunner, to decide what these looks look like when they are so collaborative. From, I think we talked about with maybe when Jeannie came on, we were like, anything that goes on top of your head is technically hair, but anything on the face is makeup. And then of course we have all of the costumes, but they all have to work together so well. Like the sirens are a great example of that.
Yeah.
Are you just all on Zoom being like, well, I think that we should use this substance to create the look of a lava rock? Is this an in-person
Well, we definitely plan these looks collaboratively for a long time. So, I think that we've talked in the past about how long we shoot our show. So our seasons
Mm-hmm.
are, you know, 9 months of shooting. And so we have the build up of creating all the sequences. And every week we all get together as department heads and creators and have our weekly meeting. So costumes and stunts and cinematography and everybody is in the room together. So we're in the room together. We're talking about what's coming up. And then as it starts to come up, we all share our concepts. And concepts, for the sirens is like textures. And so the textures that could be on the skin then echo into the textures of the fabrics of the costumes that start to be made. So once usually we get concepts from the studio, so the original concepts come from the studio and the creators, and then they have like a vague idea of sort of what they would like to see, and then we
Mm-hmm.
take it as hair, makeup, costumes, cinematography, stunts, and we start to put our mood boards in and talk about just different things that are going to be possible. And the conversations change and alter so many times. I mean, the sirens are a perfect example of such a huge collaboration between
Mm-hmm.
concepts, prosthetics, visual effects, stunts, choreography, cinematography, the set, the background, the textures of everything coming together. So, I would visit the set and see how the lava rocks were starting to look. I would go into the studio with the costume designer. We walked through the lava rocks to see the texture of the pieces, how we could echo that into the movement of the fabrics, into the movement of the skin, how we were going to take barnacles from the world that the art department had placed and put that into the makeup, into the costume. And so everything was a slow build. And then the prosthetics, Jonah at Blue Whale was starting to build the prosthetics and sending me images of the sculpts in progress, which I would show to the producers, which I would show to the costume department, which we would say, is that going to blend in the neck? Do we need another piece? Can we have fabric that comes over that area? All of these, like the giants were a good example of, they had huge arms. Like we had to create these men who were already very tall. I think the shortest was like 6'7" or 6'8". And I have a funny story about that, but I'll tell you that later. Uh, so we had to create larger than life limbs. We had big hands that were big silicone gloves that we slipped on. And when where the glove ended, I asked the costume department to help us to build the fabrics out and wrap leathers. And, Kate,
Mm-hmm.
our Cameron, our wonderful costume designer, came up with great ideas to wrap the leathers, make the fabrics big using, fake furs and bigger fabrics, so we could make these characters feel larger than life, and that the costumes help hide the edges of the prosthetics, and the prosthetics, help hide moments in the hair and the beard and all kinds of, tricks, all kinds of tricks.
Oh, wow. Something else I've been thinking of after we did our set visit and we got to walk through like the makeup trailer. This was like the day after we walked through like the entire costume department. And I was thinking about how like the costume department has this like huge sprawling floor of the studio and you have like this trailer. Do you do everything in that trailer? Like I remember we were watching people work on like lace Stragonian feet in that trailer. Is that where you guys like literally do everything in that little car?
We do a lot in the trailer, and but I do have a prosthetic shop, Blue Whale,
Right.
who
Oh,
builds the prosthetics, and then when they ship to us, we do, yes, we do everything in the trailer. We build the
Wow.
beards, we Jeannie builds the wigs, and then we put it together and we start testing the looks together. And it's interesting because the first season, I had makeup and makeup effects in separate trailers, and last year we were all in the same trailer. So there was days where there was like 15 artists and all of our
yeah.
chairs were full, and it was like last season
Wow.
was very, very busy. And this season, for season 3, I literally begged. I was like, please, please, we need 2 trailers. It was so hard to have everything because not only, we do store some of the bigger prosthetics in the office, but we also have to keep so many of the pieces in the trailer of, we would do
Hmm.
days where the Oracle would shoot one day, and the next day the Giants would shoot, and the next day the Sirens would shoot. And so we had to keep all of that stuff on hand. And so, yes, our trailer is full of makeup and beards and sideburns and prosthetic pieces and, not to mention lipstick and, skincare and,
Hmm.
I'm totally overlooking and not even talking about all the beauty makeup that we do and all the regular characters and I think in season 2, we ramped that up as well. So Leah's
Yes.
got a beautiful makeup look. Dior, like everyone's wearing makeup in season 2. People are mature, they're grown up,
Hmm.
they're living in the world, they're serious, and it shows.
A serious girl needs a lip liner, okay?
Yes.
For her quest. I have to. There's a million things I want to ask you, but literally top of my list was the lip liners. Like, are like the color, the lip color for Clarice this season is so gorgeous. I cannot like take my eyes off of like that like maroon color whenever she's on her quest or like Dior will be like sobbing on screen and I'm like god her lipstick looks really good like talk to us about
She'll be so
creating
excited to hear that.
literally creating that like everyday and not that questing look for the two of them. And we talked about last time Annabeth, like there was a big change in that very last episode of season 1 where Annabeth is like heading back into the real world and she's got a little bit more makeup on. And now, like you said, like they're serious. So how did you create their like every day I'm going out to save the world makeup look?
Well, I think too, when we started season 2, we tested the girls coming back, um and it's always that sort of moment, where like again, just to echo back to season 1, but they are still kids. So we are
Hmm.
still
Hmm.
kind of trying to make them not look overly made up, but
Hmm.
um the idea of having, makeup. And I think one interesting thing I thought about for season 2 was just the tone of the lips and the colors. And I really loved that maroon, that sort of
Yeah.
um, deep plum kind of vibe that felt like serious and maybe didn't feel like makeup in a sense, like a big makeup look. So we tested different looks, but what was important was keeping the eyes fairly natural. Now both Dior and Leah have gorgeous eyelashes and beautiful, big eye features and brows. So they didn't need a lot of eye makeup. I mean, they do have a lot of eye makeup, but it's a no makeup look, which
Right.
is sort of
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
designed to look like they don't have a lot of makeup. It's enhancing their features, their beautiful big dark eyelashes and big dark eyes. And then to have these luscious full lips that have a serious tone to them. So it was like
Mm.
Hmm.
we used it is mostly lip liners. Dior loves lip stains, so every morning she would do her lip stain, and so that really stays underneath her lipstick, so that is part of her look.
That only makes sense for a
Oh.
demigod on a quest, especially in the Sea of Monsters. Like, you can't be reapplying your lipstick constantly. You're going to need a lip stain
It's
when you're
true.
on the
It's
ocean.
true. And let's face it, Sea of Monsters, the whole season was all about waterproofing.
Yeah.
There is
Was
a
that was
lot
that a
of
big
water.
challenge?
Yes. Yeah. That was a big challenge. You know, we also did a lot of tests to make the cast look wet without making them look wet.
Yes,
And
yes.
that was a whole thing because it was like we wanted to keep them comfortable, we wanted them to look, but they had to look wet. And so then it was
Mhm.
like, let's try this product, let's try this product, let's do the hair, let's like I have so many pictures of like Walker sitting there like, okay, now look this way, do you look wet enough? Okay. And it was just like product after product after product, and I was like, oh, is it wet, does it look weird, is it dripping, you know, how do you get it to drip, how do you get it? And at the end of the day, what worked was just spraying them with water.
And that's on
Unfortunately.
budget too. Like, just get a spray bottle. That's 99
Exactly.
cents. I was thinking about that particularly in episode 7 when at one point they're running around like the like Montauk Pier or like the Long Island Pier, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, Arian and Daniel are still soaking wet." Like they've been soaking wet this entire episode because they came off of the hippocampi. Like that must have been
Yeah.
complicated.
Well, that one scene on the wharf, I do have to say, it was pouring rain, absolutely pouring rain. And so there was definitely some days where it was pouring rain and that helped.
You're like, "Just go stand out in the rain for a second and
Yes,
then come
just
back
stand
in."
here, take the umbrella away. Perfect. But as far as the makeup to last through, you know, through the pouring rain, through the the rain towers and the water, the water, the water, the water. Like, I mean, on the ironclad ship, the water, the water, the water. We tested
Mm-mm.
and had to make sure that all the makeup was stable, that the, you know, the mascara was waterproof, that the brow gels were going to hold the brows in place so that it wasn't going to be like a mess, you know, whenever we get shot with water, and that things weren't going to run all over the face. And it wasn't just the beauty makeups. I mean, it was the skin coverage for all the cast. Everybody needed their foundations to be waterproof. The eye makeup
Mhm.
had to be waterproof. I think a lot of the, you know, one of the reasons the lip stains and the lip liner pencil specifically for the girls worked the best was because of the waterproofness and the
Yeah.
stability. And then, you know, the ironclad had to be completely waterproof. So all of their paints were, you know, um, alcohol-based paints, airbrushed,
Oh, wow,
wax-based
wow.
paints, cream colors that were wax-based and water resistant. So
Can
it
you
was,
talk
Oh
more
my god.
about designing those prosthetics also for the soldiers? I think you were talking a little bit about this earlier that some of them had pieces on to give that bone look. Like
yeah. So,
what was the inspiration for that?
well, so the inspiration for, you know, like I said, the Warriors of Bone, and I think that we
Mhm.
kind of took, I think I talked about the Fields of Asphodel from the season one, where we had
Yeah.
to kind of do a lot of cheating because of the budget restraints. So we
Right.
couldn't have 30 people in prosthetics for the Fields of
Mhm, mhm.
Asphodel. So we had the first few people in prosthetics around the camera, and then they were mannequins as they faced out, in the background. And when we were on set, nobody could tell. And so I think because we had that sort of under our belt, we were like, okay, so when we looked at the ironclad, when I looked at the ironclad, and it was again like a sea of stunt actors, and it was a huge sequence, and where
Mhm.
there would be people with dialogue, there would be people who were getting whipped off the ship, there would be people who were getting soaking wet, and the
Mhm.
cast would be among them. So there would be people around the actors, you know, everybody had to look good, but we couldn't spend $5 million on the sequence. And it was a very long sequence. The actors played for a very long time. So in my department, the longer characters play on camera, the more expensive they get, because sometimes
Mm.
the prosthetics are, well, every time prosthetics are only um, available to us for the one day. When we take them off, the solvents that we use to clean them off the skin, we have to then throw them away. So every day has to be new
Wow.
prosthetics.
Oh,
Whoa.
wow.
So it can get quite expensive.
Yeah.
So the ironclad, when we tested them, we tested just airbrush paint, different techniques of highlights and shadows. Then we tested using, they're called prosade transfers. So they're sculpted and made transfers that are three-dimensional, but they're
Mm-hmm.
not silicone. So prosthetics are made of silicone. Then we have another level called a prosade transfer, which is a little more durable, or sorry, a little more affordable, I should say. And it doesn't require as much like life casting and created in a mold. I mean, they are created in molds, but they can be run multiple times. And so they do end up being a little less a little more cost effective. So we used the bone placement was mostly prostate transfers, and most of the
Mm.
ironclad were just creative paint schemes. So using skin texturing and highlights and shadows, and we
Mm-hmm.
did veins. We ran veins. A lot of the veins were paint. Some of the veins were three-dimensional, which then we sealed onto the skin. So it was a lot of
Oh.
different. Everybody was different. I would say every ironclad was individually designed and was unique to themselves. And again, credit to my incredible team,
Yay.
who have
Yes.
such amazing skill. And we just hand painted and worked our butts off. It was
Yeah.
3 or 4 hours every morning to pump out the ironclad. And then a team of, 15 to 20 artists on set to maintain them throughout the day because they did go through a lot. They did go through a lot.
Congratulations on I mean, all of those ironclad soldiers look incredible, but specifically congratulations to you and your team on helping to create Mitch from Blockbuster, like one of the most iconic television
Isn't he
characters
the
of all
best?
time. He
So
looks so good.
fun.
Something about the way the bones are like shaped on his face also, it gives him kind of like an ooh-woo look. He's so
Yes.
sympathetic, right?
I
Because
know,
they're
he's
like a
so
little
like
downturned.
cute, right?
Yeah.
He's so cute. I know. He was such a great character. And what's interesting is the actor Miles who played Mitch, he looks like Timothy Chalamet. Like he's
I know. I've been
super
stalking
handsome.
him.
And one day Arian saw him in the trailer and was like, "Who are you?" And then he was like, "I'm Blockbuster Mitch." And we were like, "Don't look at him. He can't look like Timothy Chalamet. He has to look like a character." And maybe one day he'll come back as this. He has the potential to get recast again because he
I
was
literally
very.
need him to have a prolific career. That is a beautiful man who did an incredible comedic performance as this
Yes,
like
and he was
disgusting
so
monster.
fun and he was so like committed to it. He was really great. All those guys were so fun. They were so committed because it was such a difficult sequence to shoot and it was day
Yeah.
after day after day of extremely long days. 3 hours in the
Mm-hmm.
makeup chair in the morning, 14 hours on set, and another
Oh my
hour to get cleaned
gosh.
up at the end of the day. I mean, they were long days and they were very challenging and, getting pelted by water. Like, I can't even tell you the moment. Okay, there's a shot of Clarice of Dior when I think it's in the trailer, and I swear they used the first take because when she jumps into the gun and
Yeah.
Yes.
she jumps into the gun, and we were all like, I was watching the screen and we were all like ready for the rehearsal, or, jumps into the gun, and then they didn't use the water in the rehearsal, and then we go to shoot it. All the finals are done. Rex makes sure her makeup is waterproof and perfect. She's up there, and they shot the water. I had to ask the special effects guys, how many gallons of water were you guys using? They said for the close-ups, maybe 20 gallons. And that was across the whole ship, of course, but I have
Oh,
never seen anything like it. They pelted water at Dior. Sorry, there's someone at my
yeah.
door. And I was just like, oh, I couldn't even believe it. And she was just a champ. She just championed right through it and kept acting. She was soaking wet and she was like using her gun and like, run. It was crazy. It was crazy. I've never
Oh,
seen anything like it. She was amazing.
Tomina Cruzette. Okay.
Yeah.
He
Yeah, literally.
made that
So
up.
good. So
They're also
good.
similar. I think the shot is also in the trailer where that Walker, stumbles to the front of the ironclad and then gets hit with what looks like a literal bucket of water just
Yeah.
straight to his face.
Same thing. I was just like, oh, we're shooting it. I was just like, oh, and those guys like champions. They just kept going, kept acting through it. And that stuff is real. Like those
Yeah.
shots on the ironclad are real. They are being pelted with water. They were
Yeah.
such pros. That whole sequence was so exciting to watch happen. And I just get chills when I think about it because I think it's something like for the fans. Like the whole ironclad sequence was so good and so
Yeah.
fun, and it really came together. And it was, I mean, that was a ship, an incredible ship that they built on a stage on gimbals that moved with water cannons and rain towers. And I mean, it was incredible to see it come
Yeah.
together. It really was.
We kind of like when we were on set, it was right after they had like dismantled the ironclad, and we truly every single person we talked to was like, "Did you guys see the ironclad? Oh
Yeah,
my
I
God, we're
know.
so sorry you
We
just
were
missed the
so proud of
ironclad."
it.
Yeah, it was so special to be like right after that whole sequence was done, and everyone was like, "We can't wait for you to see the ironclad."
Yeah.
It was
Yeah, it was
amazing.
pretty cool. It was pretty cool. It was sort of that, the magic of movies, it really was seeing
Yeah.
it come together because it was so
Yeah.
practical. And so, sometimes I think you can tell when the water's not real or when the people aren't really moving or the wind isn't
Hmm.
real.
Yeah.
And that was one of those sequences where everything was so real and the actors just worked through it and they were so amazing and the stunts were incredible and it was a really really special thing to work
Oh,
on.
episode 4 is just so great. We've said this to everybody, but after we finished watching that episode together for the first time, our jaws were dropped. Like we were silent for minutes, which is nuts for us. We were silent and we were like, this is
That's
unbelievable. Like
awesome.
what just happened? Everything just came together so well. Also, not to be like 17 magazine, but what is the best waterproof mascara? I need to know what
Well, I'll tell you because
to
honestly,
buy.
we tested so many, and we can't. So it's Lash Paradise, which is from I want to say L'Oreal. Is it L'Oreal or Revlon? Hang on. I gotta give it
Hang
right.
on,
Right.
everyone. You can be patient for this information, y'all. This is important stuff.
Yes, L'Oreal. It's like a voluminous. It's called Lash Paradise, and it's in like a baby blue tube. And we were like, we were like Lash Paradise. It was like fudge proof. It was amazing. Yeah, that was what
You
Dior
really
had on her lashes when she got pelted with all that water, and she just came through like a champ. And Rex was like, Lash Paradise. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
It really is incredible. You probably have a level of, at this point, like water testing, real world data that very
Yeah,
few people can claim to have with all of these
yeah.
products.
It's true because we went through everything, so many tests for all the waterproofness. And I remember one day when one day, I don't know if it was the first day we worked with the Ironclad, but we were shooting the scene where Aries introduced the whole team to
Mm,
Dior
hmm.
on the wharf, and it was like pouring rain, like torrential.
Oh yeah.
And I went up to the ADs and I said, "Can we get them out of the rain? Like we have to touch them up, and we're not able to touch them up standing there in the rain because you open your palette and all the rain falls into your palette, and you're just like trying to."
Hmm.
And the ADs were like, "Well, I mean, they have to be waterproof. These guys they need to be waterproof. Like, are you saying they're not waterproof? Like they're going to be pelted with water." And I was like, "No, no, they're waterproof. It's just that we have to maintain that level. Like everything's going to start to erode when you're just standing there hour after hour. And we have
Hmm.
to just take them away for a second, dry them off, reseal them, reapply the layers, get them back out to you in the pouring rain so that yes, like the answer is are they waterproof? Yes. But, there's limits to everything.
And I
Yeah.
keep picturing, as you're talking, I keep picturing the final scene in Death Becomes Her when they're like sitting on the park
I
bench in
love
the
that movie.
cemetery. And like they're like, oh, you're falling apart and trying to put the like solvents
Totally.
and the paint sealer back on each other's faces.
Totally. That's what it is. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the best? Okay, so if that's the best waterproof lash product, what is the best thing to remove the intense waterproof products from like teenage skin?
Oh, well, micellar water works really well. And we use a very expensive water called Cogendo Spa water, which is
Ooh.
incredible and removes a lot of the products without leaving like an oily residue.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but the micellar water is definitely the way to go. If it's crazy, and it's all layers of paint, we use 244 Super Solve. These are more prosthetic kind of
Right.
oily removers, isopropyl myricate, um, things like that. Because we do have to seal all of our makeups so well. So we use, Krylon sealer sprays, Opsite. A lot of the big makeup brands have sealer sprays. We also have gone through the gamut of makeup sealer sprays. So, like all-nighter was a favorite for a while. Then the Charlotte Tilbury, the
Mm.
sealer spray favorite. We like the Rhode sealer. We we've gone through all the sealers because all the sealing sprays have become such a major part of the Percy Jackson universe.
Yeah. I'm having a vision right now. I'm having a vision of like a like spa water, CC spa, Disney, some kind of like promotional packaging. We need to be
Yes,
like,
I
why am I not
know.
walking into Sephora able to buy waterproof mascara that is branded by Disney?
Oh my gosh, I have so many ideas. Well, Walker loves Tic Tacs, and I'm like, why aren't there blue Tic Tacs? There should be Percy Jackson Tic Tacs for you. Like we got
This
to
is
start working on these things,
That's easy money. They already make
that's
them blue.
right?
right.
Come on.
Seriously,
They
that's
did like
exactly
Menchie's
that's
yogurt.
easy.
If we can do Menchie's yogurt
I
in a cup,
know.
we can do
I
blue Tic
couldn't
Tacs.
I couldn't find Menchie's yogurt anywhere. I was hoping, is there one on Oahu? Because there's not one on Maui. I was like, we got
There
to find
There
the
used to
Menchie's
be.
was.
yogurt.
We grew up with the
Yeah,
one Menchie's yogurt on Oahu, and I think it hasn't been
It
there
does
for like
not
10
exist.
years now.
I know.
No. We used to go quite regularly, and I feel like we have podcast patrons who were like messaging in our group chat being like, guys, I'm driving 2 hours today to go to the Menchie's so I can get the Percy Jackson cup. That I think that means we can have blue Tic Tacs, like if that is the
Like
lengths to which
really, they already make blue Tic Tacs. They just have to put them all together with a little Poseidon on them, and yeah,
Yeah.
like literally a low budget trident. We don't
yeah,
even need Walker's face. All you need is a trident.
a trident.
Yeah, that and Legos. I'm never gonna get over why we don't have Legos yet, and I'm not gonna be calm about it
Yeah.
until we get Legos.
An ironclad Lego set that can tilt 8 degrees.
Yes, like the ship. Oh, or like Polyphemus Island Lego.
Let's talk
Yes.
about
Stop.
Polyphemus. Let's talk about putting Alex in prosthetic makeup. I think I saw a time lapse, and I know he's done like an interview talking about sitting in that chair, putting on that incredible gigantic chin, the head. Talk about like creating that look, especially with the VFX work to do the eye. Obviously Polyphemus has a little bit more going on than Daniel and Tyson do. So like pairing that prosthetic with around how the eye was going to be like worked on in post.
Well, one of the interesting things about Polyphemus was when we started season two, they said Polyphemus is going to be visual effects. Don't worry about it. Polyphemus is going to be visual effects, like pretty much for the first 3 months that we were shooting. Polyphemus will be visual
Wow.
effects. So we were like, oh, okay. And then as it started to come, and I don't know how or why the conversation started to change. And maybe it was just the realization of how we were going to shoot Polyphemus in the world with the cast and
Mhm.
make him look larger than life. So the conversation first started like, are we going to build like a big shoulder piece that we will do over the shoulders and shoot the cast so that
Mm.
he looks big and
Mm.
they look small? Is there going to be an arm? Do we need to build an arm? Are we going to build like, then it was like, should we build a head? And then, so anyways, the conversation basically started to come together, and Jonah Levy, who and I, we co-designed the prosthetics and worked together quite closely, started to kind of brainstorm where we're like, okay, like what can we do to really bring this? What can we sell them on that's not going to cost $5 million to put this character together so that we can have a practical character, so that we will have somebody on set acting with the cast who feels like a giant, who
Mhm.
and because the giants I think had worked fairly well, I do want to tell my story about the giant before we go into Polyphemus. So
Yes.
when we were
Do it.
first testing the giants, and the first time we put Mark together, Mark was the giant that bust through the barrier, so he had the
Oh, I
red
got in,
hair and the
y'all.
big, yeah, that guy. And so he was all body paint too, because he had a vest, and
Mhm.
he was body paint, and he had big arms, and he was this whole character. We sort of planned this giant for so long to put him together. He had huge shoes to make him very tall. I think he's like 6'5" anyways. And we were all doing a big show and tell in the costume room. You've been there, huge costume room. Anyways, the cast
Mhm.
had been in a stunt rehearsal, so they all came in. The producers were all there. The costume designer was there. Jeannie and I were there. We were all like sort of showing the giant for the first time, all put together, hair, makeup, costume, prosthetics. So exciting.
Yeah.
So Dan Schatz comes in and he goes, "Oh my God, wow, he looks so big." put him next to one of the cast. So they were like, Daniel, go stand beside. Now, have you met Daniel? Daniel's like six
6'4",
three,
Daniel's a
six
tall,
four, six
yeah.
five.
tall gentleman.
Daniel is tall and big. And I was like, no, 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 not Daniel. Don't put Daniel beside them. I was like, Leah, go stand beside the giant. Because the look of disappointment, Daniel went and stood beside Mark, and everyone was like, oh, he doesn't look that tall. I was like, get him out of there, not Daniel, please. Get somebody small. Leah, go stand beside Mark, please.
And they were like, ooh,
Yeah, then they were like, oh, perfect. He looks nice and big. So maybe it was maybe because the Giants had kind of worked out really well and everybody was sort of
Yeah.
happy with the Giants. They sort of tasked me with the concept of putting Polyphemus into being a practical character. So Jonah and I sat down and talked about it. Now, what ended up happening was we had to shoot some exteriors on Polyphemus's island that were coming up pretty quick. I think we had maybe
mm,
Mhm.
6 weeks before we had to shoot that, which to make a full prosthetic body, 6 weeks is like almost impossible. So I had two prosthetic shops work on Polyphemus. So the prosthetic shop Masters Effects, Todd Masters came in and helped us so much, was amazing. They did the body. So they created a big body suit and hands and feet, which were larger than life. And then Jonah worked on the face, um, which was which was a chin, cheeks, a full head, a full cowl, a full neck and head
Wow.
and cowl, and a forehead. So the only place it was not makeup was here, so that we knew the eye would go there. So it was the blending of the forehead
Okay.
coming in, and then the blending of the cheeks and the face coming down. But we didn't do anything to alter the eye because we knew that we wanted to capture Alex's performance and that the visual
Mhm.
effects needed the tracking of his performance in his actual eyes to be able to create the
Mhm.
eye that they then put onto his face.
right.
So for the original Polyphemus was a collaboration of two prosthetic shops to build all of that. And once we had all the pieces, then my team of Ashley, myself, Mike, Holland would do the applications. Like I said, the face was the face was huge and it was very heavy. So we had a huge,
Yeah.
heavy silicone cowl and then a big chin and big cheeks. And so it took all of us putting the makeup together to be able to seal the weight and make Alex
Wow.
comfortable. He was hot. It was very
Yeah.
heavy. It was a very complicated makeup to pull together. And it came together so well, I think, when we first saw him. We barely tested him the night before we all moved out on location. The prosthetic pieces were literally being raced to me from the airport. And Alex was waiting, and the prosthetics team, we were all waiting, and we were hoping that we would have enough time to test it that night before the company, like the trucks had to move. And we put him together and put on his big hands and feet and walked him out to the lunch tent to show all the producers and say, okay. And they were like, great, we'll see him on Monday. And we are like, okay, we'll see you on Monday.
There's also such a great look to him because he is so complicated and not this horrible monster that he could be and that maybe he has been portrayed as in other medias in the past. There was this intention. The showrunners, we teased this to us back in San Diego Comic-Con, and we were so excited to see sympathetic Polyphemus. And he's not in a sense he's very intimidating, but he's also not necessarily scary. Was that a conversation about how to design him so that it's but also oh, I feel this is Tyson's big brother. I'm not running in terror. I'm wanting to understand what's wrong with this man.
What's interesting about that question is I feel like that was Alex, meaning when we put the makeup
Hmm.
on Alex, he he really embodied this character that
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the pieces were supposed to be scary. And when we put
Mhm.
the makeup together, there was something about Alex that was kind of cute, when it comes
Yeah.
together where you
Yeah.
go, oh, there was something where you can feel when he got mad, the ferocity came through, but
Yeah.
this sort of like kindness, and this sort of like this character came to life when we put the makeup on Alex. It really did.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he embodied exactly what you said, where he has so much like layers into
Yeah.
the character of Polyphemus, and that really did come from him and
Yeah.
his performance.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. Does that like really do you feel like, wow, I really did my job when you put the makeup on somebody and then it's like bam, they come to life?
Yeah, it was what it was so cool to see it come together. And like I said, because I felt like, not that I felt super rushed with Polyphemus, but it was a bit of a rush, and it was sort of like pieces coming from everywhere to come together. That when
Hmm.
we were
Hmm.
on location, when we first established
Right.
Polyphemus, we were out of our home, our studio, where
Right.
we're
In the
all very safe,
Okanagan.
and we were up in the Okanagan, and we were on location. And so it was like, as it came together in front of me, I feel like, and it was pretty amazing to see it all come together. And he had these big hands and feet that we would carry around in a cart, and wouldn't subject him to wearing them until he was on set. And so the big hands, the big feet, then the costume pieces would come over top of it. And so he really was a collaboration of all these different departments coming together. The costume department would go to the prosthetic shop to make sure all the measurements of the costume were going to work. And we barely saw him all together 100% before we had to race to set to shoot him in the exteriors. And I think it came together so well. Like, we were just like, it was pretty magical. It was a great
Yeah.
character.
Like you mentioned a lot of things about this season being more practical. There's more prosthetics. And like another piece of that is the other thing that you were alluding to, which is this like more location shooting as compared to all the volume stuff. Like for the
Yeah.
makeup department, moving away from the volume. I'm obviously like I'm sure you've had experiences of this sort before, but like what for this show challenges or opportunities did you get from moving away from this into like outdoors, real light? Out of the safety and comfort of the studio lot. Um, well,
Well,
yeah.
it
What
was,
was that
I
like this
think the
season?
biggest thing, like I said, the weather, the rain,
Mm-mm.
for Polyphemus, it was controlling his heat in all the different environments. I think with the giants as well,
Yeah.
because they are so covered in prosthetics and they get so hot. I think on our very last night of shooting, because we did the Polyphemus cave exteriors on our very last day of shooting, and we had this huge fan that was like powered by a drill base, so it was just like and on that last night it broke. We're like, oh well, it did its work. Because
That's what that
everybody
a
was like hot.
drill
It
bit
was
wasn't
either,
enough to keep powering the fan.
I know, yeah, but it was like,
Wow.
it was keeping actors cool in the heat. It was
Yeah.
keeping actors dry and comfortable in the cold, in the wet. It was keeping the makeup from getting destroyed in the rain. And it was a lot of that for the whole season, definitely.
I think you mentioned to us when we chatted with you briefly on set also that the chariot race posed a lot of these challenges too, with
Oh, it
how
was
hot it
so
was and how
hot.
many
Oh.
people there were.
It was so hot when we shot the chariot race, and we shot the chariot race for a long time on different units, in different uh, different parts of it. It was so complicated, so complex, so incredible. That was another thing as it was coming together. I was like, oh, this is going to be amazing. The level of detail, the level of care of everything that went into the chariot race was incredible. And the level of continuity for us to shoot it over and over and over again, because the stunt actors got injured throughout the race. So it was like, what moment are we starting in? What has already happened? And for
Right.
the most part, we shot it in sequence. But once we started doing the second unit work and the pickup shots, it got very complicated with, is this the moment where that person's falling off the chariot and they're getting their injuries, or has that already happened? And how dirty are
Yeah.
they? What level of continuity for the dirt are we in this moment right now? Have the birds attacked yet? Are like, it was all of that. Continuity in season 2 was very complicated. We
Yeah.
shot all of the exteriors of them leaving Polyphemus's cave before we had shot anything inside of Polyphemus's cave. We shot a lot of the chariot aftermath before we had finished the chariot race.
Mm.
That stuff is always complicated for me as a makeup, because when you go through it, it always works out a bit differently than when you plan it in your head, how
Mm.
dirty and how dusty they're going to get, and how these
Hmm.
injuries are going to work, and how, so that is complicated. Are they still wet? They, take someone off the cliff. Is he still wet? So that was all very complicated for sure.
Yeah.
The continuity of season two was very, very complicated. We had
Oh,
lots of
yeah.
meetings about it, hair, makeup, and costumes specifically, um, and interestingly enough, in season three, I think because we were all trained so well in season two, the the continuity for season three has been equally as complicated, because it's sort of this continuous moment of going through all of these different, you
Yeah.
know, um, scenarios. Season three is going to be amazing. It's so different than season two, which is so interesting to me, that, season two is very like hot and dusty, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
everybody's
Dry, arid.
tanned, and it's just like, um, it's got this different sort of world. And season three is like
It's the
cold
winter
and
season.
winter. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like pale, and it's just got a
Silvery like
completely
the moon,
different
one could say.
silvery moonlight nighttime. Yes, definitely.
We love The Titan's Curse. Season 3 is going to be like, it's our favorite book. We are so
It's my favorite book
excited.
too. The
We
book was
love the
excellent.
hunters.
Yeah,
We're very
yeah,
excited to see what the hunters are going to look like.
Very excited to see the
yeah,
hunters look. Very excited to see them fight. Very looking forward to seeing
yeah.
Artemis and Apollo. I mean, the Godly Council, we'll have a lot to talk about next year. The
Yes,
Godly Council at the end, we have been like preparing ourselves for the Godly Council at the end of season 3 for like years now, thinking about what a gigantic lift that is going to be for
I
like from
know.
casting to cost, like having everybody all in one place is such a complicated thing for a TV show to have to do. you know,
I know.
bringing all these
I
actors together.
know.
So yeah, we're
I
really excited.
know. And the set, I mean, it's interesting too, because I keep in my head, when I think about the council, thinking of our set with Zeus from season one, but we don't have that set anymore because we don't have the
That was the
volume stage.
volume.
Yeah.
So they have to build that set. And when we were breaking, they were building a huge set. It was huge, crazy, enormous,
Oh
crazy.
yeah,
It wasn't
building
that
Mount
set, it was a
Othris.
different set. But yeah, it was Mount Othras. So I haven't seen it. I'm excited to go back and see it, and excited to start working on all of that part of the story.
Yeah.
It's going to be
Yeah.
it's a big season.
Oh, I need to be patient. I really do need to be patient. It's still a Sea of Monsters. One of our
Yes.
favorite looks from this season, and our favorite characters in this season are the Grey sisters. And we
Fun.
had such an amazing time. First of all, we got to talk to the like actors that they hired to play the Grey sisters at Comic Con, and I think somebody, it might have been Dan Schatz, was telling us about how they like tried to recreate that prosthetic makeup for that little like Comic Con experience, and so we got to see some of like up close like how much crap is on their faces for something like that, and they look so good. And in particular, there is one shot that is in episode 1 where you see the Grey sisters' foot like slamming on the brakes of the taxi in this nasty little old lady slipper. And it is just the nastiest foot I've ever seen. I was like, yes, this is so good. Can you tell us about the crusty foot of the Grey sisters?
Sure. What's really funny is we just had a scene in season three where on the call sheet they were like, "Oh, we have to do an insert of the foot of the Grey sisters," and I was like, "But we already
Yes, you
did
do.
that. We've already done that. You guys have that shot already." Um, but yeah, the Grey sisters were so fun. Those makeups were so fun, and they, I think I've talked about how they were designed that the eyelids were removable. So
Right.
the idea, we had different pieces for the eye, because as they switched their eye between them, they would either have
Hmm.
closed eyes or the eye inside, or
Hmm.
eyes open. So there was sort of like a few different prosthetic looks that we had to change quickly on the set during the shoot, depending on whose point of view it was. And I
Yeah.
think when it all came together, it worked so well. And the actresses, are not used to being in prosthetics. I think for mm, I want to say all of them, but maybe Sandra had been in prosthetics before, but I don't think the other two had. So, getting everybody, we had a meeting the night before they started shooting, just talking about what a Zoom meeting, talking about what the process would feel like, what it would be like, how we would always be there to make sure that they were, comfortable and taken care of, and that they could see when they weren't shooting, because that was sort of a big concern.
Hmm.
And so the they I totally lost your question in my
Oh, it
head.
was just talking. My question
Where was
was
I going
crusty
to?
foot. My question was
The
crusty foot
crusty
question
foot.
mark. So I
Yes.
think you you've know how did they see? Were they able to see like through the eye holes, or is it kind
They
of
could
like
sort of see. So the eyes were sculpted shut, but they weren't fully shut. So they could see a little bit.
Mm.
And then we would
right?
Mm.
literally take off the eye pieces when they weren't on camera so that they could see and they could be comfortable. So they weren't that worried about it. So, and then before they were shooting, we'd get our warning, and then we'd put the pieces back on and glue them down and paint them so that it looked seamless.
Yeah.
And then the
Wow.
foot, so the foot, we did a bunch of tests of the foot, and it was basically a construction makeup of um, Prozaid transfers, and then just paint and airbrush layers of
Yeah.
paint and texture, Baldy's texture and skin, and then Ashley made some fingernails, toenails that were all like filed and broken and just painted. They were fantastic, and so they were pretty crusty, those feet.
Yay! Crusty feet representation. Representation matters. Oh. I think that this is probably like we can't let you go before we ask you our final like question about CC's and the epic like Annabeth Percy makeover and maybe like bronzer like in addition to
Yeah,
beautiful pink eyeshadow. This is such a big thing in the books, like especially for people like listeners of our podcast, and we talk so much about Percabeth, like this like makeover scene is such a big deal on the page. So like imagining what that would look like um on camera must have been really exciting. And how did you land on the
yeah.
pink eyeshadow?
Well, I think the pink eyeshadow was something that was different that we had never seen on Annabeth, and I think the idea that
Yeah.
it was just going to look very different from her normal look. And Leah, she's so fun to experiment with because she loves makeup. So all the testing, Krista does her makeup day to day. So Krista and Leah and myself, we sat down and we tested different looks, different colors, different like eye shapes, just something that would kind of give Annabeth like something different. So when you see her, you're like, oh, like she had a makeover. And then the same
Yeah.
with Percy, really with Percy, I mean, he has so much makeup on in in that scene. It's bronzer and
we
layers
were
of
we
body
were like
makeup and
we
makeup and
We
makeup
were
and
trying to
makeup.
speculate about what
we
it
were like,
was.
what is
We
the
were
we were like
guessing bronzer, and we were guessing like, did he get like a little bit of shine in the inner
inner eye
corners?
highlight.
Yeah. Yes. Little eye shine, little kicks, little like bronzer, little highlights on the cheekbones, lots of body
Yeah.
makeup, a little lip tint, it was like it had to be a whole thing. And then um the hair really helped push it, into
The
that
side part is
full
next
makeup.
level.
Yeah, it really was. I know I kept looking at him on set and I would just be like admiring the work. He'd be like, "Shut up." Like, I love
Wow.
it.
Not to mention the pirates coming out. That
Yeah,
look
the
was
pirates were
also
so
absolutely amazing.
fun. Yeah, the pirates were so fun. Because I did Peter Pan and Wendy, so it was
Yes.
fun to do pirates again. It was actually one of our pirates from Peter Pan and Wendy who was one of the pirates. It
Oh.
wasn't the main pirate, but one of the side pirates was one of our pirates from Peter Pan and Wendy. So it was like, well, you have to look totally different, still pirates and totally different. And the facial hair, like from the giants, I wanted the facial hair for the pirates to feel very different than the giants, but
Yeah,
all
yeah.
sort of in the same world, and the coloration, and it was fun. It was fun. Season 2 was fun. We did so much makeup. It was so
Wow.
fun.
I
So
have
fun.
totally lied. This is actually our very last question, and this will segue us into season 3 very well. Thalia, Grace, and her eyeliner. Thalia Grace is iconic. Thalia's like punk look, very iconic, really big deal to the
Yes.
fans. Tell us
Yeah,
about where
very.
she finds her eyeliner on the road as a feral child.
I know. Wait till you see season 3.
All I want to see in season 3 is girls sitting on the side of the road in the continental United States applying eyeliner. Because that's what it means to be a
Well, I
hunter of
mean,
Artemis.
and you would
Don't
travel with your
say anything.
eyeliner. It's just a little pencil. You can keep it in your pocket. I mean, it's true. Like, I mean, girls travel with their makeup. I think it's something that's important to them. You've got to keep the look. And it was, meeting T, she's so collaborative herself, and her look, it's so iconic, the look of Thalia in the books. We had lots of meetings about it, Zoom meetings, lots of vision boards, lots and lots and lots of costumes and hair and makeup, and the collaboration of it all coming together was really exciting, I think, for us to keep her, distinctively punk. She has to have that look. Her eyeliner is very much a part of who she is. She's distinctively edgy and should look much edgier than all the other people. So that did establish last season and has continued to be, a very iconic, hopefully iconic, look for the show, for her, definitely for her. She feels it, it's in her blood. It because of, T's wonderful collaboration, I think that it really resonated into her character, so that, we didn't want her to look stereotypical. We wanted her to be unique and feel like edgy without it being so obvious. And so I think just that we wanted it to still feel kind of natural and young, but also have that edgy quality that everybody expects to see from Thalia, because she's a badass.
Yeah. She so is. It looks amazing. Awesome. I hope it inspires a whole generation of young girls to have fierce eyeliner every day.
I know. Well, me as a kid. I can definitely see it as a Halloween costume. In fact, my daughter did background on the show, and she came home and she put together this whole outfit that looked just like Thalia. It was cute to see. I was like, oh, I see what you're doing. I had to go to work the next day and tell everybody and tell T that she had inspired my daughter to go home and put together her own clothes to make herself look like Thalia. So that gave me the inkling that we created something great, and that Thalia's whole image is going to take off.
That makes me want to cry. Was your daughter a camper?
My daughters were campers last year. My daughters were at the chariot race. They were at the chariot race. And when we were watching it, I was like, see if you can see yourself. And then my younger daughter was a camper. And then my older daughter was also in a sequence in season 3.
Ooh, very exciting. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to see you guys. Always such a pleasure.
We are so grateful to get to hear all of the inside tidbits and learn about Lash Paradise. Write that down, everyone.
Yeah, you will not be disappointed. Lash Paradise.
Lash Paradise. We are so excited to talk to you in a year from now about the Hunters of Artemis. So we will see you then. Would you like to tell people where they can find you on the internet?
Oh, Naomi Bakstad Makeup on Instagram is usually where I post all pictures of the show, and that's my professional forum. So I know I really need to get into TikTok, but follow me at Naomi Bakstad Makeup on Instagram.
Yes, please follow. It's so much great behind the scenes stuff. And thank you so much, everyone. We will see you next week for some more behind the scenes interview fun. Bye, everyone.
Bye.